Hey everyone, welcome to part 2 of my video tutorial for building my 3D terrain. I've plastered my whole piece now and it's looking really good. I really like it. Uh, as I thought, these guys were extremely hard to cover with the plaster cloth. They gave me a lot of grief trying to wrap it around these cones, but the final result I'm very happy with. I like how it looks. You'll probably be able to notice if I hold this up real nice and close. You'll see a few gaps right here, a few holes. That's where the plaster didn't cover the cloth. Everything else that's nice and flat was easy to cover with the plaster. But then when you look at all these mountain peaks, there's holes all over the place. And that's just because it's so hard to wrap the cloth around and smear the plaster. Okay guys, so I decided to do a little bit of explaining here before I carry on. Basically what I was doing when I was starting that paint job was I was doing the earth tone, the undertone for the whole image, which is on this piece, the brown, the earth brown was what I was going for. So you can see that here, and you'll see it in between the grass lines. You have that earth brown. You see it on the mountain walls here, the earth brown. So that's what I'm painting right now on my other piece. So what I decided to do, I was just going to brush on a few light blue strokes. That wasn't working, so I decided to paint the whole thing blue, just like I did with that one, except with a brown. So now I have the whole thing blue, and then I went the peaks of all the mountains I saturated with the blue as well. And I've switched over now to just a regular paintbrush here, and I've got some white. And what I'm going to attempt to do now is I'm going to dry brush white over top of the blue, which is probably what I should have done with the blue in the first place. So for those who haven't done any dry brushing before, what I'm going to do is I'm going to take some paint on my brush. I'm going to rub off all the excess paint. Then I'm going to take a cloth and I'm going to rub that paint off as well. So now I just have a little bit stuck in between the bristles. And just very gently, actually not gently, quite firmly, you're going to dab at this and really kind of brush off everything that's in between those bristles. And you can really go at it in there. I'm just going to do another one here and then I'm going to show you what it looks like. So I put paint on the brush, I rub it off on the side walls, get that excess out, and then rub it off the paintbrush here onto the cloth. That's just so I have hardly any on here. And then the first couple strokes you want to just kind of do real quick and light just to make sure you don't have too much still on. And then once you know that you don't have a lot on there, you can go to town. And this is just to kind of hide all that blue under like a little mask of white. Mix them together just so it's not so abrupt. I don't know what word to use here. So let's show you what we kind of have here. Let's see if you can tell the difference there or not. Where am I? Okay. So I don't know if you can see a big difference there, but here's all the dry brushed white over top, and then the darker blue here that hasn't been dry brushed. So this is kind of the color I want, just a nice light blue that's going to be under the snow. Once I have the snow over top, like I have the grass on this one, it's only going to be in between these lines that you see the undertone. So it's going to be hidden quite well. I'm going to go ahead and do the rest of this. and then we'll get on to the rest of it. Okay, so I have the base painted. I've gone in and I dry brushed some white on here, so it's kind of speckled blue and white. I like the consistency. Most of it's going to be covered up, so it's just going to barely show through. It should look pretty good. I kind of did the same thing with the mountain terrain. Um, I mean, for now, I like it, and then I'm probably going to go over the mountain terrain with some fine detailed painting or something afterwards to make it look really cool. But for now, this is what I like. You can tell by the touch whether the paint and plaster is dry or not, just by how cold it is. If it's room temperature, then it's completely dried, and if it's quite cool to the touch, then you know that it's still wet. So this paint is still drying, it's not quite complete yet. So what I'm going to do in the meantime is I'm going to prep some of the other stuff. I'm going to make, here I have a mold. It's a plastic mold, not a rubber mold, but it's for some rocks. Here, I'll show you. This is some rocks that I'm just gonna do half of a rock actually, but I'm gonna pour some plaster in here and let that settle so I can place a rock on this piece. Where I got the most of my materials is actually from a Scenorama. Let's see if we can get the name in here. There we go. So Scenorama. This was my starter kit that I got for when I started my big project. It came with this mold here. It came with a bunch of grasses and shrubs and materials for making all sorts of cool things. You got some little pebbles in there and rocks and stuff too. But you can go to a hobby store and get some rubber molds for making rocks. And if you don't want to spend the money on a whole scene kit, you can do that. The plaster I'm using is this stuff right here, just some art plaster that you can get at a hobby store, and that's what I'm pouring into this here now. So I'm just going to pour some into this rock here. I only want this one side of this rock, and that's all I really want. Since I have enough, I'm going to pour into the rest of it too. I've heard that when you're pouring into molds, you always want to pour in from the side. You never want to pour directly into the mold. And I think that's because it creates air bubbles, but I'm not too sure exactly. So this was a little wet. I should have had a thicker consistency. It'll probably take a long time for this to dry because I had so much water in here. But that's going to settle, and that's going to create my rock for the terrain. I've also decided I'm going to do a tree for you guys as well, so you can see how I did my trees. And I'll get into that right after I move some space and get everything ready. Alright, so as far as trees go, you guys have a couple options. You can go out and you can buy some nice fancy trees that are pre-made, and they're going to cost you $2 to $4 per tree. That was a little pricey for me, so I decided to make my own, and they're not going to look as pretty, but you'll get the idea. I went to the dollar store, and I bought this wreath. Now this wreath is broken into little wire sections like this, and I snipped one of those off and I sprayed it with glue, and then I dunked it in some grass, some fine grain green grass that I got from the hobby store, and that can be like a tree in a swamp or something like that. You could trim the edges. I haven't done anything to this. All I did was just cut it right off, dunk it in glue and in the grass, and this is what I got. That looks half decent to me. Some little pieces hanging off that need to be trimmed, but that's easy enough. That's the fastest way. The other way that I made my trees, and here's the top part of my tree. These are the ones that are on my other pieces. And what I did here was I took some foam from something, and then I took a piece of tubing. This is from some plastic wrap that I had, or from what is it, aluminum foil tubing that they have it wrapped around. I take this and I simply twisted it through styrofoam. I have a real thin edge, so it's not going to work that great right here, but I just wanted to show you guys real quick. Then I took another little tiny tube that I had just to stick inside and push it out, and I have this little round piece now, which you break off the little tiny pieces, and I have a little round shape. Now I took a couple of those round shapes and I stacked them on top of each other, glued them, and then I trimmed them into a cone shape. That's how I got the cone shape for this right here. Then I took some pipe cleaner from the dollar store, which is green, and taking this, I stuck it in through the side like that, inside of it, and then I started wrapping it around the tree, and I went all the way around until I had this guy right here. Now once I have that, I also got these little wooden craft sticks from the dollar store. I'm going to sharpen the edge on this one side. I probably don't even need to, and then I'm going to stick it all the way through, and there you're going to have your tree. Now from this point, what I'm going to do is I'm going to get some half water, half glue, and I'm going to dunk this and saturate it in that. Then I'm going to take a cup of the green grass powder, and I'm just going to swirl it around in that. And I'm going to come out with the same product that I have on my other pieces, which I'll try and show you. Zoom in right now. Let's see what we can get here. So there's my two trees right there. And that's kind of the product that you're going to get. They look half decent, and it's going to be a lot cheaper. I spent probably about $1 on these sticks, $1 on the tubing. The styrofoam was free, and then it's just the glue and the powder to make these trees. So I'm going to finish up, make this one, and then I'm going to put white powder on it instead of green to make it look snow covered, and then we'll place that in there.